you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from theChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by. Thanks for being here. As always, we appreciate you. Remember, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law, because she never liked you anyway. She wanted your wife to marry Bob, because Bob went on to that spectacular career of stockbroking and owning things, and you're just still, I don't know, sitting around the house eating Cheetos on your beanbag chair naked. But anyway, guys, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have an amazing young man on the show with us today with his exciting new book that's going to be hot off the presses come, I believe it's July 23rd, 2024. That's like, what is that? Is that 7/23/24? I don't know. There's some math there somewhere in a code, I think. But the book is entitled Grand Theft AI by James Cox, and he'll be on to talk to us about that. AI is so hot right now, they're putting it in books. James Cox is an award-winning filmmaker who has written and directed several motion pictures, including Wonderland, starring Val Kilmer, and the acclaimed short film Atomic Tabasco. That's I animo with Atomic Tabasco every morning. Wakes you right up with a coffee. A diehard 49ers fan, we'll forgive him for that. James lives with his fiancée in Los Angeles, where he is writing the sequel to his debut novel, Grand Theft AI. Welcome to the show, James, from a Raiders lifelong fan.
Oh, okay. Well, but Bay Area, got it. Are you from the Bay Area? Or
I'm not from the Bay Area, but the one time I went to a Raiders game, the 49ers were playing, and it was like a prison yard, basically, trying to survive on a prison yard. Yeah.
You were in the Coliseum.
I was in the Coliseum, and I've never seen so many fights break out within 10 feet of me in my life, and It was like living in a prison yard. It seriously was. Like, one guy came up to me who was a huge man, and I'm 6'2", and he looked like Bubba from the prison, and he said to me, "Them fries look pretty good." And I was like, "You can take them. Just please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt me."
These are your fries.
Yeah, but they were wonderful. I think there was one person who got we saw thrown head first down some of the. Down, kind of over our shoulders. He was thrown headfirst down we're up on the risers, and you're just like, the mathematics of physics that it takes to be going headfirst down from that angle, that you have to have quite the launch position. And I remember seeing it, just going, well, that's interesting. But it's evidently they don't get along up there much. It's probably good that they moved into my town of Vegas. So, James, welcome to the show. Give us your .coms where people can find you on the interweb, sir.
JamesCoxBooks.com, and you'll find all my socials there. It's a one-stop shop for this book and the movies and all things me.
There you go. So, give us a 30,000 overview. Your new book, Grand Theft AI.
It is a heist that goes down in the fall of 2051. It's an accelerated 2051, or at least it was when I started writing it. It is defined in large part by a domestic security event that went down 8 years in the backstory in 2043. It's kind of the 9/11 of the synthetic generation, in which certain model androids went haywire, and tens of thousands of Americans were killed one afternoon. And as a result, the technology has innovated at an exponential rate, and so there's an amount of luxury and opportunity that's enjoyed by those who can afford it and those who can't are suffering a pretty robust security apparatus. And
Hmm.
the neural implants that you jockey for, now they're mandatory, so everyone's on
Oh.
grid all the time. And in this dystopia, come together like this surrogate family of ragtag thieves to pull off the heist of the century. And some of them are traditional mechanics, like the getaway girl who saddles a monster of a motorcycle, a 2028 Hayabusa.
Hmm.
And then others are specific to this world, like different kind of uh, hacker. One of them is called a crackerjack. One of them is called a flyboy, and these are all very specified coders and hackers with applications that are required for the gig. And through the course of the caper, they get involved with much larger forces, not just the kingpin they're knocking over, but stuff that goes deep down into the root of the world itself. And they
Wow.
all end up having to make a choice.
There you go. And those
Yeah.
choices shaped the movie. It's billed as The Matrix meets Blade Runner. Is that an appropriate analogy, would you say?
I think so. I think, I'll keep reaching for it. I am quite proud of it. It's always been imagined as a cyberpunk landscape.
Hmm.
Blade Runner is probably the best example on film. Snow Crash, Neuromancer, all these types of things are big influences. I come from Silicon Valley, and so I think that's accurate. And then I think also the Matrix side of stuff, because there is a commercial product called the Wet Wire, which is essentially uh, a Swiss Army smartphone in your head that can go from AR to VR to full haptic sim. You can pop in and out,
Hmm.
and very much like the Matrix.
Wow, that sounds like awesome. The porn must be great on it. I'm not sure what
It's
that means.
funny you should say that. I'm reminded of the Tropic Thunder quote. If you ever want to chart the progress of technology,
Yeah,
just follow porn.
there you go. And never go full retard. It has some interesting things in the book too. There's a infinite VR prison time,
There
which
is, yeah.
anytime I have to deal with an Apple product feels like infinite VR prison time, being an Android user. And I imagine there's a lot of AI in here. How did you map out? I don't know, kind of what our future looks like with AI, where we're headed.
I did. The book. I will keep oscillating back and forth, because at
Mhm.
some point we should get into a little bit of kind of how I got into the book writing role. But
Mhm.
it is a framed narrative. So chapters 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are taking place in the heist time of late 2051, and then chapters 2, 4, 6, 8. Every time you introduce a new character or element to the world, there will be kind of it's almost like a biographical narrative short story chapter that
Mm.
opens up the world build. And I think that if there's anything about this cyberpunk thing that for me is unique, it's that so many times, whether it's Blade Runner or whatever else, you're just dropped into this world, and maybe you get a little bit of a rewind and explanation, but for the most part, you're just chasing after. For this one, there are characters who are born before this podcast.
Mhm.
And so their histories involve stuff that we've already lived through. And then
Mhm.
um, all the innovations that are to come kind of occur on a timeline, and each one of them goes through it from different points of view.
There you go. So we'll circle back to that other question you wanted me to ask you about on how you got into writing. Let's talk about your history. People usually want to know about the author, and tell us about how you grew up. What influenced you? What made you want to become a filmmaker and eventually an author, and work on these different storytelling devices?
It, I mean, it has been a road, that's for sure. I got a very young, fortunate, I got a very young, fortunate break in the entertainment business. I grew up in Northern California, making movies in my backyard with a camcorder, like at 10 years old.
Ah.
I went, I went to Berkeley for a couple years. I transferred out to NYU, and I was that kid that you hear about every once in a while that comes out of film school with this red hot short that it just exploded.
Yeah.
Um, It won at Sundance. It won a Student Academy Award. Sold to HBO. And then when it hit Los Angeles, it really the industry really responded to it. My first 3 meetings were crazy. It was Jerry Bruckheimer bought my first pitch on day one. Ridley Scott and Tony Scott signed me to RSA, and Mike DeLuca and Donna Langley hired me at New Line to direct the Scott Rosenberg picture starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Jared Leto. So I was off to the races. I couldn't even graduate from school because I was already on set directing a $14 million studio picture.
Wow. There you go.
Right.
And that's
23 years old, and there we go.
And then I think we dropped one of the names of one of your movies in. Do you want to drop other ones? I think we dropped the Wonderland.
Yeah, I mean, well, the movie that I did at that point was called Highway. I had no idea what I was doing. I'll be honest. I was coming from peanut butter sandwiches to 36 trucks, like literally overnight.
Wow.
I think the first day on set, like there was this hush across the set because I had turned around the crew twice, which I didn't even know what that meant at the time. So it took me a long time to figure out how to move the machine. And Mike DeLuca ended up leaving New Line, and that movie lost its theatrical release. So I struggled. I kind of had to figure out, like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Which is when I think at that point I realized that there was a big difference for me between director for hire and directing my own material. And that I also, right around there, I read a script called Training Day.
Okay.
And that thing changed my life. I'll be honest. Like, it was the best script I had ever read. I happened to read it on the date it published. And it took me a day to get my agent on the phone, and I lost my mind. I was like, dude, you got to get me on the room on the thing. The thing is insane. I don't know why you tell me this teen stream stuff. It's the greatest, and he's like, who sent you that script? And I was like, oh, I got it on a sample. And wait, what? Like he goofed, and he's like, no, that's just, and he started backplaying. He's like, that's just like, it's like an A-list only script.
Oh, wow. It's like an A-list.
Which I wasn't obviously at the time. And I realized, like, if I was going to direct what I wanted to direct, I was going to have to write it myself. And so at that moment, I think if you asked me, like, when did I had written professionally, I'd written personally, obviously my whole life, but that was when it was all in, where I just knew I was a screenwriter. And so there's a true crime that came my way, which we discussed, called Wonderland. And it's this notorious true crime. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or seen it, but it's starring Val Kilmer, and it is this grisly quadruple homicide that went down in the summer of '81. And I got my hands on the LAPD crime scene tape, and
it was the real thing, huh?
The real thing, like with it's, I will never forget the blood on the walls. Jeez. 4 bodies on the floor.
I didn't do it. I just
Me
want to
neither.
make it clear.
Me neither. It's funny you should say it. Well, anyway, so bone shattering like wood, but I ended up getting consumed by that thing. I sat down with Val Kilmer to play the role of John Holmes, who is this infamous porn star at the center of the whole crime. And, he sat there and he goes, James, I got to ask you this question, like, might not be important to your process, but it's important to mine. Do you know Dawn? Do you know Sharon? And that's John's wife and girlfriend at the time, played by Kate Bosworth and Lisa Kudrow. And I go, Val, do I know? I hold up this necklace. I'm like, that's Sharon Holmes's wedding ring. I'm wearing it around my neck. I was so just all in. Lisa Kudrow was like, ew, what are you wearing that for? Val was like ripped it off my head faster than I could flinch, grabs this thing. If you've seen his Doc Holliday or his Jim Morrison, he's like a shaman, right?
Yeah.
He starts rubbing this thing like Aladdin's lamp, looking off into the ether. He's like, a lot of pain, a lot of heartache. And he looks at me, he's like, and a lot of blood.
Wow.
And the set was haunted.
Really?
We shot it. Yeah, we shot. There were things that went bump in the night in my life that I could not explain. There were no atheists in this foxhole.
Uh-huh.
Like ghost stories, I can tell, but I won't. I'm already on a tangent, but um, and we shot on the scene of the crime, and the movie was
Wow.
just magic. It really caught the eye of like legends, like
Hmm.
huge influences in my life, like Michael Mann, Robert Towne, Robert Zemeckis, Bob Evans, a writer who would prove instrumental in my career, Shane Salerno,
Mm-hmm.
William Friedkin, and Francis Coppola.
Francis Ford
You know, like
Coppola,
yeah,
yeah.
Val took me in the movie up to the winery, and
Yeah.
like we watched it in his private screening room, and the lights come up, and
Oh,
like
really? Wow.
Francis comes at me with these fingers. He's like, James, it's like straight out of Hearts of Darkness. He's like, the opener of your movie. And I was like, oh my God, is this happening? It's like, this is all before I turned 30.
Dude, that's like a rocket ship, man. That's like a
It was a
rocket ship.
it was so funny. It was a absolute rocket ship. And, looking back, I realized, Chris, I had no idea how fortunate I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It soon after that, I think, was when my demons got the better of me.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Cocaine and hookers?
Let's just say excess in every sense of the word. No, but I was someone who always loved going out.
Martin Scorsese has cocaine years from what I understand. I think he's admitted to that.
I loved. I went to the same school as he did. He was a legend, New York.
Yeah.
I loved going out in New York City because that city never sleeps, and that's where I cut my teeth going to school there. But I was someone who just could not draw the line between work hard and play hard.
Yeah.
It was all just one big juggernaut of energy.
I think, hard, yeah.
Honestly, like back then, deep down in my insecure heart, I really did believe you had to live life like a rock star to be an artist.
Yeah, it's kind of all plays together, really. Like I've been a big Metallica fan all my life, and when they got off drugs, a couple albums really sucked. And I'm like, can you guys get back on drugs again? So
it's funny because I come from the music business. I came out of Atlantic Records, and me and my best friend at NYU, he's now nominated for 3 Oscars for music, and
wow.
He's actually in the short Atomic Tabasco. He's got the cowboy hat on, and I was shooting all of his film projects, and I was writing lyrics on his album. And so, like a lot of my musical role models, excess is the watchword, but it all caught up with me, when my dad died. He, the signs of self-destruction were already there, but when he passed, I just buckled.
Wow. And so did that give you an awakening moment, a moment of like, okay, where are we at? Clarity?
Yeah. I should have been in a therapist's office, seeking professional help, but instead I just said, screw it.
Yeah. Well, they should deliver.
Screw it.
You know what you do? You hire the therapist to deliver the booze, hookers, and cocaine. That's what you do. And then that way you've got everybody there at the party, and you can, just every now and then you can lean over between cuts and be like, hey, my dad didn't hug me enough as a child. What's up? That sort of shit.
Well, I was making bad decisions already, so I started making really bad decisions. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
But yeah, I was, I'll be honest, like I offended super talented people.
Uh-oh.
I embarrassed myself in very public arenas, and showed up unprepared to really critical professional moments, and blew huge opportunity after huge opportunity out of ego.
Yeah.
AKA fear, stuff that would have changed my life in a very real way. Good movies, great relationships. I burned them all to the ground, man. I just didn't give a damn.
So how'd you come out of it?
Well, my life got really small for a very long time until finally I woke up.
Well, at least you didn't go through the journey where you end up in prison or the hospital. Unless you've
I
left
did
out that part of
not.
the story.
I did not end up in prison
So
or
that's
a
good.
hospital.
That's good. Some people,
You
they
know,
have to hit that rock bottom before they.
well, I was Thanksgiving 2013. I was in the lobby of the Hyatt on Union Square in San Francisco. I don't know if you know it, but
Mm-hmm.
all the hairs shot up on the back of my neck, and everything changed. It was like some wind blew through me,
Wow.
and I was done running, and I was done numbing, and I got back to Los Angeles, and I got to work, facing up to who I'd become
Mm-hmm.
and finding the real me.
There you go. And I think about that time, you probably were working on Straight A's or Billionaire Boys.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to figure out like who I was and
Mm-hmm.
how to put myself back together again, and a lot of writing, finding my real voice. And it's funny you mentioned Billionaire Boys Club because when that picture came together, that thing, I struggled.
Hmm.
Yeah, the logistics were arduous and the true crime was a labyrinth, but it was the main character that was really hard to get right. This guy named Joe Hunt, who's still in prison. And I think it's because like that project dated back to my darkest days, and I had like this death wish fascination with condemned souls.
Yeah.
And
Kind of a reflection of yourself.
you know, everything I work on is always a reflection on myself. So maybe what you're saying made a lot more sense, when the lens was polished,
Yeah.
so to speak, or at least, but anyways, like, was it really a cautionary tale that needed to be told, or just this too twisted nightmare of greed and entitlement gone haywire, right?
Yeah.
And it was 2017. It was like a gut check for our business, and you really had to ask yourself, did the world need a true story about white privileged young men from Beverly Hills whose horrible financial crimes turn horribly violent?
Are there any
Um,
movies that aren't? No.
I can tell you when that thing cratered, and it cratered for reals. Like,
Really?
yeah, you can bet I was in a therapist's office that week.
Oh, wow. Well, you had some great talent on there. Kevin Spacey. I mean, he's such a great actor. I really wish
Incredible.
he's been to court for all these accusations he's gotten and been acquitted. I'm really disappointed Hollywood doesn't bring him back. He's an incredible actor. I mean, incredible is an understatement.
Yeah.
And his body of work is astounding. I kind of resent Hollywood actually over it.
Well, I mean,
I don't want to get you in trouble, so you can leave me under the bus.
Like I was saying, I was literally it was like on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Thursday, three separate therapists, because it just was like that, and it was on the 1 yard line. I mean, we were literally screening for buyers, and it was tough going like, what the heck happened? And I got to give credit where credit is due. It was my fiance who helped me put things in perspective. She is a brilliant and talented architect, RISD graduate, a maker, but she is a Academy Award-winning set designer, and most importantly, she's a crew member. So I was able to see Billionaire Boys Club and its demise through my crew's eyes. And you hear they say that like our filmmaking is a collaborative medium. And it's so true. I can hear her words like ringing in my head, like it takes a village to raise a child. And that so many people like work so hard on that picture for so long. And over one weekend, it just evaporated, like
Wow.
Juicers and Teamsters and PAs and crews and me, like years of my life, but a year from hundreds of crew members, like gone. We worked through holidays and sacrificed precious time with our families, and for what? For like a 4-walled release on 10 screens to satisfy foreign. It was like, you want to know what I wanted to say? I want to say screw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
but I knew where that went. So
So it looks like
I,
you took some time off after that. And is that what moved you into writing?
I mean that at that moment I just started writing.
Mm-hmm.
That process, that movie was it was logistically arduous, and I had put the pen down for figuratively for like over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I just got back on the horse, I started writing. It was stuff that I loved,
Mm-hmm.
like as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
like Star Wars, Aliens, Predator, Blade Runner, The Matrix, Snow Crash, Neuromancer,
Mm-hmm.
like just characters at first, like prose, like not screenplay format, like little
Mm-hmm.
short story bios in a world set against the coming golden age of AI.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know like what it was or where it was going. I just knew that it was what was true in my heart. Um, World building sci-fi, this seamy dystopian technology crazed future with bots and brain computer interfaces and a government that's everywhere, beginning and ending with your head.
Mm-hmm.
But at its heart, this time was this love story between two damaged, battle scarred souls who come together to find redemption and survive.
There you go.
The world was dark and treacherous, but the characters were hopeful,
Mm-hmm.
aspirational, likable.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ripley and Hicks, Indy and Marion, Neo and Trinity,
Mm-hmm. It sounds like
Baz and
you.
Rhea.
It sounds like you
You
went
know,
back to your roots and you found, where your true love is of what
a
what you
100%.
enjoy. Going through that
Yes,
cathartic moment and getting back to the basics, as I like to call it in business, where you get back to what you love and your center again.
this, like I was saying when I was finding my true voice, this was my true voice. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is my true voice. And the stories, they evolved into a screenplay that for a second was going to be my next movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just kept going and then oddly turned into a novella.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept writing and the thing kept growing until eventually I sent the manuscript to my mentor, Shane Salerno, and he read the thing in a day.
Really? That's good.
I mean,
That's a good
nobody
sign.
reads anything in a day,
If it's good, you do.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, just good, like that's a loaded comment. Like,
no,
I'm
I mean,
going
it
someplace
really
there.
is because I mean, we've had authors on the show. If I get 5 seconds to read a book, sometimes the first fucking line just sucks me right in. I'm like, God damn it, you got to read that thing. You got to find out what happens.
Well,
So,
that I know where we're going with this one then, because he called me up and he said like, yo, just a heist set in a Blade Runner Matrix world, like we can do something with this. He was blown away by this new direction. No one expected me to be harboring this secret passion for sci-fi, and
mm-hmm.
he also, he imagined or he envisioned a world as bold and as far-reaching as I did.
Mm-hmm.
He like Shane just got it, and he insisted that it was not in a condition to send out. He did not think it was ready, but he wanted to develop it together further. And when the time was right, we would take it to publishers. And he was really honest with me. He was like, I can't help you with directing movies right now, but I know how to get this book published.
Ah.
And, we went to work on it for a number of months. And when it was ready, he took it to Blackstone Publishing,
Mm-hmm.
and they flipped for it. And it's been a long road. I mean, I'm grateful that I've been able to share this thing with you. So thank you. But it was even longer getting the novel right. It
Yeah.
was working with a sensational team at Blackstone, Josh and Stephanie Stanton, Josie Woodbridge, my developmental editor, Diana Gill, my copy editor, Michael Crane.
Mm-hmm.
We just draft after draft. Perfectionism, I kept thanking him for. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. I'm still thanking them for.
Sounds like you had your
getting this
Oscar
right.
speech down for this because you're naming all the names.
I am so proud of this. Well, I do want to give credit's due, because I
Yeah.
can go into it at some point, but there was a big learning curve going from what I had written,
Yeah.
the prose stuff, which was a voice that I had been developing on my own, and then starting to work with the professionals at Blackstone. And so I am so very proud of this. It is the best thing I've ever done. And thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Well, we're not done yet.
No,
Just wait.
that was just the yarn.
That was part of the Oscar speech there. I get it. Yeah. You can. When you accept the Oscar for this movie, please do name us. I appreciate that. So it's probably, writing a book is probably very different than writing a screenplay. Is that kind of what the learning process was for you?
Yeah. Yes. The first leap was into this prose that in our line of work, or in the movie business, you are publishing as a writer, writing that is not in screenplay format. And so it's, whether it's in a pitch doc or a treatment, you are coming out with prose. So I had been developing this voice through that was starting to really heat up, and then it kind of exploded in this process that I was just telling you about. And then the manuscript that Blackstone bought, put it mildly, the margins were wonky. Mm-hmm. Eric Roth is one of the best screenwriters there is, and he says, I think he said to the LA Times, screenwriting is a very interesting idiom. We use a lot of dots and dashes. Mm-hmm. So, and each one means something. Like when I use an ellipsis or a double dash in a screenplay, it's different than a period, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I think Diana, my editor, it was just unwinding that and there's a thing called CMOS. I'm sure you know it, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't. So like even my quotations were like you read like, what is it? Oh God, Patricia Highsmith's her amazing one that is that Elizabeth Moss is in, Handmaid's Tale. All the quotations I think are in italicized. So there's definitely times where you just break the rules and throw them out the window, mm-hmm. but you better be Patricia Highsmith when you do it, So yeah, there's a thing called at some point there was a thing called head hopping, which was the real heart of the learning curve.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I'm talking about?
I don't. That sounds like something from your earlier days of debauchery.
I was told you are a very humorous human being.
I've been told that mostly by women who are just like, "You're funny, bye."
You do make them laugh, though.
Well, that's about it. And then I make them cry.
Jane and I were working on something a while ago, and which Ocean's 11 is, and that's a model for this book, and that is one of the best lines. Does he make you laugh? He doesn't make me cry.
He doesn't make me cry. Actually, you should make him cry. They'll like you more. It's always the one that gets away.
So yeah, head hopping is when you're bouncing from one character to another within a paragraph. Okay. And it's kind of a no-no. It was once in vogue. Mm. So Frank Hubert and Dune and Ernest Hemingway does it. But it's now like people prefer to be kind of keyholed into a specific perspective. And when you're directing a scene, you've got to be in every actor's head at once. So if there's a transaction that's like a gun goes off, or someone punches someone, or someone sells something, whatever the heck, they come through the door, everybody's head is interacting with that moment in a different way. And then they're interacting off each other, and you're kind of playing this game of chess as you're directing the scene. And so when I started writing this thing, that was what this was it was like, well, this is what I can't ever do on screen, mm-hmm. And so I approached it like that. And so I was in everybody's head at once and cracking punchlines. One person was thinking one thing and someone was thinking the other. man, unwinding that had to kill some babies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to leave some on the floor. But you're working on book 2, right? So there's going to be a second sequel.
I am.
There
I
you go.
am. Yeah.
Oh, I
Should
have
I
to
get
get my
in?
head hopping joke in. I didn't think that was a Hollywood term. I thought that was a North Hollywood term. So, sorry, I had to get that one in there.
That is I don't, does everyone know what that
I don't
means?
know what that means, but
You
it
don't know
sounded
what
like a
that
good
means.
joke in my
That's the
head.
Valley.
That's the
That's the
beauty.
Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights.
Yeah,
That's
that's head hopping. Not sure what it means. You can ask someone on the street in North Hollywood, and they'll tell you. So I had to get that joke in there. It seemed like too much to waste or too little. Either way, it's there. Sometimes we die on the show just to kill.
there.
We don't go for the
I would
kill. We
not
go right for
consider
the
that
die.
dying. No, I would not consider
I
that
think my
dying.
audience gets it at this point.
Oh, sure. And if they don't, they're like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, it's probably the wrong show for them. That or they're, I don't know, really religious. What's the chances of? Do you think is the second book going to come out soon? And what's the chance of this being turned into movies?
Well,
I mean, you own the options, so you've already optioned the book technically.
yeah. I mean, it's up to the movie gods of it getting made. It's obviously, comes from a filmmaker. It is a visual world. It's a,
Yeah.
so it's built. So, the odds or the chances are, Shane Salerno is is my manager and representing the book. So, to the movie gods we pray and
There you go.
do the rain dance. But it is built for that, and it is a
Michael Mann would be a good director for this. You mentioned him earlier, and I was reminded that Heat is my number one favorite film of all time. I mean, The Godfather. I don't know. There might have to be a fight, but
which one's your favorite Michael Mann movie? I'm curious.
Heat is one.
Heat.
Heat is probably my favorite film of all times. Although The
Wow.
Godfather has to be. If you were to say what is the greatest film of all time, it has to be The Godfather. But my favorite movie is Heat, and then Godfather second. But I'm really concerned because he's working on Heat the sequel, and I'm really not sure I want to have that
I
that
don't know if it's a
masterpiece pissed
prequel.
on.
I don't know if it's a prequel or sequel,
Oh yeah,
but
I just don't want to see it ruined. It was like
I don't know.
Godfather.
I
It's
think
like
it's in good
Godfather 3,
hands.
basically.
Yeah. Well, they pulled
or
me back
Matrix
in.
3.
Right.
Matrix 3. What the fuck is going on already? I don't know. Wasn't that the byline? But no, he would be good for this movie. Ridley Scott, of course.
Michael
would be.
Mann, Ridley, all of them.
Yeah.
Are we asking who would be my wish list?
Yeah,
Who would
sure. If
come
you
on
got one
board?
in, if you
I
got one in
think
your
Charlie
head.
Booker would be quite incredible. He's the guy
Mhm.
behind the Black Mirror movies.
Mhm.
I think Ridley Scott would be fantastic, or Guillermo would be amazing. Guillermo del Toro. I mean,
Yeah.
we're just going off like really heavy hitters. So like I don't know. I would love to. I'm just kidding.
Let you direct it.
I loved
It's your comeback
Blade
film.
Runner 2049. I think it kind of it loses it in the third act, but the first half of the film
Yeah,
is just
I'd agree.
sensational.
When they go to the desert, I think that's when we go off the rails. I think.
Well, when he's not the one,
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to bring it back.
he's like, oh, you thought you were the Messiah. We all did, and you're like, wait a minute. Like if Neo wasn't the one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't have a wish list now. I feel unprepared in terms of who would be my wish list. But yeah, you're putting me on the spot.
You're fine because most authors just lie to me and they go, "No, I haven't thought of any movie stars or directors. I haven't thought of anyone in the film." I think they're trying to have the best play on options. They don't want to curse it.
Oh gosh, no. I would just. A lot of it for me is just the opportunity for it to get translated to the screen, and really to hear any one of these guys that we're talking about, whether they're in a director capacity or a producer scenario, and they bring on somebody like, especially where they bring on somebody who wants to redefine a cyberpunk world. I'm just really excited to hear someone come in on board who gets it and be like, well, what has to go in there and what doesn't? You know, like if it's a movie, is it a streaming thing? Hear people come back to me and tell me, oh, this part you got to get the kiss, or you've got to get the moment where they do the deep dive, or like, because there is this, when your world to go through the world building chapters, it really gets exploratory. It goes into the main characters. You know, there's both the main character and the kingpin. Their war record in tour and in theater in this global conflict that's called the Water Wars, and so it really gets out there. The movie, you know, the book, the heist itself is keyholed. It's kind of contained into the target they're hitting, but as you branch out into everybody's characters, you're getting into these tendrils that go everywhere. So I would be really excited to hear, you know, someone come on board and be like, James, I love this and I love that, but this part felt like fat. And what if we did this?
Yeah.
So.
Sounds like it's got some elements that could be built out into multiple films, which Hollywood likes too, as well. You know.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the idea. You know, when Blackstone bought the first one, they bought the sequel too. So with an eye on the series, and it's, you know, it kind of. I think there's a few of the things that you feel there are certain, like when it comes to AI, whether it's HAL or Skynet, or in the Matrix, the war against the machines, or with the replicants in Blade Runner, right? You have these meditations on what it means to be human, and machines that rebel against their masters. And I just found that, I just was like, that's not where this goes, right? That just felt, there's a lot of AI stuff everywhere right now, but there's also a lot of researchers that are like, the idea that a machine is going to rise up and, you know, conquer its master is preposterous. It's like the safeguards are all in place. You know, the thing you really want to be afraid of is who owns these AIs.
Oh.
And the idea that they're going to rise up, you know, that's just an opiate to distract you from who's really got the boot on your neck. And so in terms of the meditation on what it means to be human, that is all being told through the humans that are inside this world, that are just trying to get by and make a buck in a world in which the rich are just getting richer and richer. And like I said, like this event has created, it's called, like I said, it's called The Glitch, and it kind of opens the novel, and it really creates the ability for certain sectors of society to gobble up and own these wildly powerful pieces of innovation.
Wow.
Like for example, like where is Chat GPT?
Where is it? Like on the internet or on their offices?
Well, yeah, like the actual thing, like the Whopper.
The brain, as it were. I don't know.
Yeah, like I had to call a buddy of mine.
It's in the cloud. Actually,
yeah, no. Well, I was like, is it just out there in the ether, in the cloud? He was like, it's in a data center.
I think you pray to it and it appears or something.
It's in a temple. It's got this
you sacrifice
there's all these
chicken.
You know, vases of black goo.
Yeah. If you do that scene in Angel Heart with the chicken and the voodoo stuff they do, you know, that's how it works.
I'm a big fan of Angel Heart.
Isn't
you know,
you're
climbing up the tree for sure.
I could watch
that
all day long.
Yeah, so that is kind of that I found that is to be kind of painting you into the corner of like, how are you really going to get better than Hal winding down, going Daisy, you know, or any of the stuff in the Matrix or the Animatrix or Skynet. I just kind of was like, I just felt like we've been down there, and it was much more interesting to do stuff that had to do with that's just almost taken for granted and thrown away. And it's more about like dealing with the type of world where, you know, you can go anywhere with your head.
Yeah. Well, this is the hottest technology you've written about, so it should be something they should fire up onto the big screen, in my opinion. As we go out, give us your
Yeah.
final thoughts. Give people a final pitch out to pick up the book wherever fine books are sold and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, it is on my. It's the best way is to go to my website, jamescoxbooks.com. I mean, it is for sale on Amazon, pre-order on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, everything. It is completely available. All you got to do is type in Grand Theft AI. You can also come to my website if you want to know more about me, which is jamescoxbooks.com. As for the final pitch, like I was saying, they bought the second book, and so hopefully this is a series. And as I was finishing the proof and the copy edit to book one, like at the same time I was finishing the manuscript to book two, the week my daughter was born.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so
on the book, not your daughter. No, I'm just kidding. That was bad.
I knew,
didn't mean to say that.
I had a feeling. I was like, I'm gonna have to go, but honestly, that is the headline.
There you go.
And I buried the lead.
Well,
and,
congratulations on the daughter.
Thank you. I was holding her in my hands this morning, Chris, and I was thinking about this podcast, and I was thinking about the long road and all the writing, but especially the bad decisions.
The bad decisions.
I was thinking about, and
you got to save this because we're talking about your daughter here, so you got to make a curve here.
No, honestly, like that was the thing, is that all the stupid shit I did somehow led to something, someone so wonderful and precious, and that's what her name means, precious, a pearl.
There you go.
And so, the characters I write and the movies I work on, how I behave, how I interact with people, how we treat one another, it carries so much more responsibility because I am shaping a life now, and the world can be dark, but the heroes, they got to be heroic. I'm a role model now.
Yeah.
And so I just got to say it, today I am grateful for one more chance to share my dreams.
There you go.
The blessing, the luck that anyone out there might read something I write, that you might read this book, that is a blessing from the universe.
There you go.
It's not as profound as my daughter's smile, but it's a blessing nonetheless. And I trust that now, after all this, I can show my readers, my colleagues, and myself the humility, gratitude, and respect that this opportunity deserves. And I can't help but marvel or wonder how had my last picture not tanked, my first novel wouldn't be coming out in July. I wouldn't be holding my little baby girl in my arms. I wouldn't be.
You wouldn't be on the Chris Voss show.
I wouldn't be on the Chris Voss show. I wouldn't be working with my mentor, Shane Salerno, this force of nature, the most talented dude I've ever met. But I got to say what I was saying before, like I would not be holding my little baby girl in my arms, marveling at the miracle that is this morning and every morning. I keep hearing in my head, Captain Miller's last words to Private Ryan echoing over and over again.
There you go.
Earn this.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Sharing your cathartic moment, your story. I mean, this is what we love. We always say stories are the owner's manual to life. And so I love hearing people's stories and their journeys and how they go through them. And, everyone goes through their learning curves and their moments and the beautiful things, like you said, the hero's journey, coming out the other side. And that makes all the difference. I remember one time I was losing a lot of money on, I think it was our mortgages. And I was sitting down watching the movie with Bogey, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
So
and I was
good.
feeling like I'd fucked up, like lost my business or we lost a lot of money, and I was thinking like, is it over? And at the end of the Treasure of Sierra Madre, they've lost everything. The gold is blown away in the wind, and they realize Bogey's. Well, I probably shouldn't blow out the whole movie, but they basically have nothing after all the work they did and surviving. And the old man says to the young man, he goes, "You're a young man. You have plenty of times to build multiple fortunes between here and now. You'll be fine. You're gonna be fine." And so, all these cathartic moments we go through in life, sometimes we just wake up one day and go, God, thank God for some of that bad shit, because I turned out great.
I mean, I can't, there is so much of that in this dude.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way that I could have written that. And had, to really just have the confidence and just to go for it, because, my first half of my career was all historical, fact-based, true crime stuff. And then to take that passion for history and build a future history, it had to go down into the abyss.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes screenwriting great and rock and roll great. People have to go through the darkness and the depression. I think that's, like I joked about Metallica earlier, when they reached a point where I heard James Hetfield say, "We can do anything, it doesn't matter." And I'm like, oh shit, now they're going to make that album Lulu and Saint Anger. And they did. So they had to go back through the shit after that and then figure out, oh, there we are. So, James, it was wonderful to have you on. Thank you very much for coming by. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interweb as we go out.
JamesCoxBooks.com.
There you go. And continued success, my friend. Sounds like you're on an amazing hero's journey. Be sure to come back for the second book, too, please.
Oh, it would be an honor. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Chris, and it's been a pleasure.
There you go. Thanks to my audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places we are on the internet. Go be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.